About a month ago, I was sat in here and I felt compelled to do something. I sat down and I wrote a letter to our Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. And it wasn't written out of hatred. It wasn't written out of party politics. It was written out of a sense of duty. I asked him to do the right thing, to stand down, to resign. And at that time, I believed that the country was already seeing serious mismanagement from the whole of the government. We'd seen scandal after scandal emerging from within the Labour Party. Figures like Angela Rayner and others, all of these supposed senior Labour ministers, constantly in the headlines for the wrong reasons. And I just believed that Britain deserved better. But I'll be honest with you, even I didn't realise just how destructive this government would become in such a short space of time. Since that letter was written, the chaos has just accelerated. It's gone exponential. We've seen the scandal around Peter Mandelson. We've seen the humiliation of the government at the Gorton and Denton by-election. We've seen the continued appeasement of sectarian tribal political groups that don't share Britain's values yet seem to hold an enormous influence over our political class. We've seen a continuation of the two-tier policing, a continuation of all of this migrant crisis, just problem after problem after problem. And then, at this time of heightened tensions across the whole of the globe, we've seen a failure to properly sign off on the defence investment plan. This is a really, really big priority for the government. Why has it not been signed? We've seen attempts to imprison protesters over the issue in the Chagos Islands, that group that sailed across there with the MP. And, the only thing that the government could say is, if you don't get off the islands now, we're going to arrest you and put you in prison for 3 years. It's like, why don't you do that to the people that invade our country? And then we've seen something that, even just a year ago we would have thought was unthinkable. The steady deterioration of the historic relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States. That special relationship that protected freedom in the 20th century is now being recklessly strained by him. At the same time, we have British troops and their families and holidaymakers and expats all in Cyprus, yet we hear very little about the preparation, protection or support for them during this increasingly volatile time. Even now they're arguing in Parliament about trying to get HMS Dragon down there. They're going on about sending 2 helicopters down there. They're talking about how they'd already done the preparations and they'd sent down air defences and the radar systems. So if all this preparation was put in place, how did these 3 drones that didn't come from Iran but did come from Iran manage to get into, Cypriot airspace, past our radars, and then one of them hit a hangar on RAF Akrotiri? And whilst all of this is happening, the government, is still desperate to drag us back into a deeper integration with the European Union, ignoring completely the democratic will of the British people, and we're still having this same drama 10 years on. Now, clearly, I might have missed a few things. There's just literally so much chaos, it's hard to keep on top of it all. But here's the real question. If we've seen this in just a few weeks since I wrote that letter, where will the country be in another 6? This is why I wrote the letter. And this is why I'm asking you, if you believe Britain deserves leadership that protects its nation rather than weakens it, add your name and sign it. I'll put the link at the bottom of this post and it's on my bio. I also want to say something directly to those men and women that may or may not be watching this who sit in Parliament. This isn't about party loyalty anymore. This isn't about protecting your career or your pension. This is about the survival of our nation. And if you still have the moral courage that this country desperately needs, stand up, call a vote of no confidence, and do what is right for Britain before it's too late. We won't forgive you otherwise.